Maybe I'll start a pest control company like Dan.
That's the plan. They're all going to start pest control companies. They're going to hire my teams to go build them and blow it up, and
There you go.
or they can just build teams into Dan Can and get equity from the accounts they put into Dan Can, and we can just like.
Which honestly, something like that, I mean, I don't have any details on what that really means, but the idea of what he just said is the way to go. It's what makes your boat go faster, right? And so there was a rowing team, if you've heard this story, and they were from, I think, England, and they were ranked in the top 20 in the world for rowing, which, I mean, that sounds significant to me, but they wanted to be, the best. And they got crushed at a world championships, and then they decided, you know what, we are going to run everything through a filter that we make. And the filter is, will this make the boat go faster? If it does, we all agree that it does, then we don't hesitate. We execute, we implement. And if it means that we have to go back on an idea that you had or that I had, we don't have time for ego, we don't have time for pride. If we all agreed, okay, considering our opinion today, it makes the boat go faster. We can't waste time, right? If it's objectively yes or no, black and white, it does, you execute, right? And so they did this for a whole year, and they ran everything through this filter, down to, hey, if Dan, you're sitting, to the right of me, or right behind me, or I don't know the configuration of, but how much do you weigh, and how much of it is muscle mass, right? And how does that interact with how much I weigh right in front of you to counter, and how are we throwing off each other? What's the size of your bicep versus the size of my bicep, right? Because we're going to have different pulls and different masses. It was like crazy, the way that they approached it. But they approached it at a very granular level, and they always ran it through the same filter. Just, will it make the boat go faster? No? Drop it. That's the other part of it too. It's not just execute on what does make the boat go faster, but immediately let go of what doesn't, right? And sometimes we hold on to the things that don't. So, long story short, they ended up crushing the world championships the next year, and then I think they won a gold medal in the Olympics the year after that, and it was like a 4 or 5 year streak where there was like a massive distance between them and the second best team. So, kind of interesting, right? And so, I say that a lot. Like, does it make your personal boat go faster? Does it make the company boat go faster? Does it make this team's boat go faster? So when Dan brings that up, I would say, I don't know what y'all's goals and ambitions and things are for the future, but if you do have interest in, getting into the business side of this, going from sales rep to manager to kind of co-partner, franchisor, franchisee, whatever, that's how you make your boat go faster. Way too many people have learned the hard lessons that aren't necessary for you to learn. So as long as the arrangement is equitable, that's fair. Don't go do your own immediate thing and go through all those learning curves if the situation's already figured out. And Dan's done an incredible job with that. He's paid that price 10 times over, right? He's A/B tested. He's learned the hard lessons to provide this opportunity the way that it is. And so I would lean into something like that. But anyways, so when I got into, I'll give you a little bit more bio from me. So when I got into D2D, I was newly married, and I was about 15 grand in debt, and my credit score was like 500, 400, 300, 2, I don't know. They wouldn't even let me have a credit card, if you've been in that situation before, where they say, we're going to give you a fake credit card, and you have the balance on the card is your own cash money, but then you use it like a credit card, and then you pay it off like a credit card, but it's all your cash to demonstrate that you get the idea of credit. It was like humiliating for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not like an idiot, but okay. And so I did, that's where I was. And so when I got married, we had to pay for everything on credit cards, my wife's credit card at the time, not mine. And so, our families aren't well off or anything like that. And so that's how I started getting married. And I had an idea that I wanted a really good quality of life for myself. And I was willing to do anything to make that happen, right? And I had a pretty clear vision around what a good quality of life meant. I don't know you guys, but if you're an average American, you have no idea what you're even fighting for, what you're even in here fighting for today. I mean, you may have like a decent idea, you know. You may say, oh, well, I want to make X amount a year. Well, why? Like, why did you land on that number? Where does that number specifically come from? What's the breakdown of it? And you may say, well, I don't, I want to retire at age whatever. Why? Why that age? You know. When you're retired, what does a day-to-day look like for you? Like, well, I'm just chilling. Like, you're just chilling? You're never going to be just chilling if that's your vision. You're always going to be grinding. You need to have clarity, like specifics, details. And I had a pretty good vision of what I thought a good quality of life meant early on. What I didn't know was how I was going to make it happen. So I was scrambling when I got home from Spain. That's how we know each other. We know each other because we served an LDS mission together around the same time in Spain. We actually didn't meet in Spain, but shortly after getting home we did. So I decided to be a dentist, which is what you were originally doing too, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
I
But
was going to be a dentist. I was going to do just medical school.
okay, I remember it was something similar. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to BYU. I'm going to major in biology. I'm going to go to dental school. And I started to have this plan form, right? I saw the path, the stepping stones laid out in front of me. And then, you start looking at tuition for medical school. You start looking at tuition for dental school, law school, whatever. And at that time, the average for dental was like $300,000. So it's like I'm going to graduate dental school with a mortgage, but no house. And same for medical school. So I was like, I need to do something about that. I need to get ahead of that somehow. I don't want to have to be paying that, until my kids go to college. It's ridiculous. And so I learned about this, and I decided to give it a go because I didn't know if I was a salesperson. I didn't know if I was, and at the time in my head, I was picturing like the ShamWow guy commercial. Do you know who I'm talking about? Like that little orange rag that like soaks everything up, and somehow he's made that thing like world famous. But his energy level is like through the roof. It's like obnoxiously salesy, his whole spiel, right? I'm like, I guess that's like sales. I don't know if I can do that. But I knew I could work hard. And they kept telling me again and again, being like naturally inclined for sales, obviously that's going to help. But what actually determines your success is always going to be how hard you're willing to work. Do you have good work ethic or not? Are you fooling yourself? You think you do, but then you really don't? Like what's the reality? If you really do, and you're gritty, then this can change your life. So I took that bet. Newly married, tons of debt, moved down to Houston, and took a chance on myself. And that has led to an insane time, this whole decade. When I went out, I had no intention of having pest control and door-to-door be a career for me, right? But after my second summer, I bought my first property. I bought a duplex, and I lived in one half in Provo, right there by Dixon Middle School, if you know where that is. But and I lived in one half and rented the other half. And so they covered my mortgage. The rental income I received covered the mortgage. So from that point till today, I have been rent-free, right? I've been rent-free. So that's a compounded investment, meaning not only do I save that money every single month because I'm not paying it, so if you take an average amount every month over 10 years, it's a significant amount, right? That's money, that's cash that's in my bank account and not just thrown out the window, right? But it's compounded because someone else is paying the mortgage, not me. So not only do I save it, but they lower the amount that I owe every single month, right? So I'm building equity in the property itself. Well, I'll circle back to that, okay? Because that's, I wanted to talk about building wealth. And when you talk about having a good quality of life, you really need to have clarity around what that means. And I'm sure that will be a piece of it, right? Assets, like that. But that summer, I had already made dentist money, my second year. And so at that point, I had a hard look in the mirror. I'm sure Dan around the same time too. And we're in our own lives, kind of like, what am I doing? I've already reached the end goal, you know, because we had a lot of flexibility in our schedule already, you know. It's like, okay, we've achieved that. And because that's an appeal to being a dentist anyway. I don't know about a doctor necessarily, but and I've already made the money, right? So like, why am I going to go through all of BYU and then all of dental school to then, you know, it's like that just it seems counterintuitive if I've already arrived. And so at that point, I really decided to take it serious, and I dropped out of college. I mean, I went a little bit more, but basically in my mind, I knew it was like dropping out of college, and so I haven't graduated. And I threw everything I had into this opportunity. Okay, everything I had. Now, 10 years, 150,000 doors, hundreds and hundreds of recruits, tons of sales, all that. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot. And so you have to say, how's that sustainable, right? Because we're in June, it's getting hot. You may already be like, man, how is this summer sustainable, let alone 10 years, right? I get that. If you were to ask me, am I passionate about pest control, like at any point during the 10 years, I have no idea how Dan feels about this. But for me, I would have said, no, I'm not passionate about pest control at all. Some people really, really need to believe in what they're doing at a significant level to go sell and work hard and do. I get that, and I totally respect that. As long as I know I can offer competitive pricing and the service is good, right? Like objectively, it's a good service. It holds up. That's all I need. I'll go sell whatever I need to go sell, right? So that may make me different from you. I don't know. But what I was passionate about was the money that I could earn doing this. And I knew I was honest with customers. I had integrity, you know. I was never taking advantage of anybody. I provided good service. I give them a good price. You know, they wanted it. I was persuasive, but at the end they wanted it, and they bought, right? So, cool, that's a good exchange. I can feel good about that. And I'll pour all of my young grind years and energy into this system because it nets me a ton of money to then go do the things that I am passionate about. Does that make sense? Now things become a lot more sustainable because not all my eggs are in one basket, emotionally, mentally, or financially. Because it's always a means to an end, right? But when you just see an endless decade of knocking doors or, you know, servicing customers or like building teams and like that's really it, to me that's not appealing, right? It can be for a time or a season or, you know, 2-3 year sprint, but eventually I feel like you need to diversify what you're getting out of the opportunity. And that comes down to what you do with your money. Does that make sense? So typically you need to think a lot bigger than you're thinking today for it all to really be empowering. Because once I picked up that property after my second year, and I'm like, I'm rent free now. Technically I netted $40 a month. I'm like, passive income. I can retire $40 a month. No, but once I got to that point, I got addicted to the idea of let me pour all my time, energy, and the majority, 80% minimum of my bandwidth into one engine, right? And go 10 miles deep, like I said, and just exponentially increase my earnings in a proven system. Take that earnings to then just go grow my quality of life. So I'll circle back to that duplex for a second. So I want you to understand the significance of what you can actually build today. How old are you?
17.
You're 17? Bro. Okay. Awesome.
He's in high school.
Welcome. I love
Yeah.
it. You're out though?
No, I'm going into my senior year.
Or I mean, you're out for the summer though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's our operation manager's son.
Oh, cool. Nice.
That guy
Dude.
over there.
Yeah. Fabio. People call you that?
No.
They should. Your beautiful locks of hair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What? How old are you?
I'm 21.
21,
23.
23,
25.
22.
21.
Dude, what the heck? You guys are like right in the prime timing to plant your flag.
Dude, we're gonna change these guys' lives.
Literally, like the younger you get started on some of the things I'm about to talk about, the more exponential and snowball they can have in your life. Okay, so my first year was all about finding stability financially in my life. Paid off all my student loans. Got a brand new car because we shared one car that had no air conditioning. That whole summer I sold. And getting some savings, right? And stuff like that, paying for tuition. It was just like, let's just get afloat and we plug the holes, like we're good. We stopped the
No
bleeding.
air conditioning?
Yeah, a whole summer.
You must have been pretty dedicated, man. That's tough.
Well, again, I was newly married with a mountain of debt.
Yeah.
And it's a commission-only job. So you better believe I was committed, right? And if you had told me that scrubbing toilets with my face could have paid what doing that would have done, I wasn't above anything is what I'm trying to say, right? I knew that there was a grind, there was a price to be paid. And there's pros and cons, but I'll tell you, having no air conditioning made me sell a lot more accounts.
Yep.
Facts, right?
That's awesome.
Literally, I mean, do you think I was chilling in my car?
No. Definitely
Hell no. That car was a freaking oven. I was out of there, right? There's one time, you remember Ray?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One time I drove out with him, and I was like, had a massive headache after lunch, and I was like, I'm gonna just like chill here for a sec, close my eyes for 15 minutes. And that was the first time all summer I had done anything like that. And we're probably in like July or something. And so it's like freaking hot and humid. This is in Houston, our first year. And he had like an old school BMW car at the time. And he's like, all right, cool. And he left, and I paid the price, man. I got locked in that car. And he was in back-to-back sales, callbacks after lunch, and did not answer his phone. I actually thought I was going to die in his car, and he was going to come to me later in the day, and my exhumed body was just going to be in there, because it had a weird tech where literally the car was locked from the inside. I'm serious. You're probably saying there's no way that's possible. Guys, I fought for my life for 45 minutes. I was locked in that car. Okay, he had a